Right, so I think we've just gone past past, so we'll get started on the session. For us now, I can't hear you, unfortunately, so I don't know if you want to just try rejoining maybe, because I want to make sure we can definitely hear you before we get started. Okay. Okay, so good morning, everyone, and welcome to Babington's webinar this morning around developing your people leaders. I'm really excited to be sharing today a range of guest speakers and panel members who'll be talking with you later in the session, but we've got a really great hour ahead of us. We've got some great individuals joining us from different organisations to help showcase our latest apprenticeship offering in our HR people leadership space. So yes, I'm going to be comparing the session today. So my name's Phil McMullen. I'm the Learning Experience Director here at Babington, and my role is to oversee the design and the development of all of our apprenticeships. So really excited to be talking about this programme with you today. And joining me to lead the session is our Chief Learning Officer, Rachel Kay, and Rachel will be taking a lead to present the session today, and we'll be joined a little bit later on by our panel members. So we've got members from we've got Karen from our COPD colleagues, we've got Feroz Bilamoria from Franklin Covey, we've got Jonathan Galley, our HR Director, and we've got Rachel Sheridan and Yvonne Smith from our HR delivery team as well, joining us for our panel discussion later on, which is really a chance for us to share some of the insights around the programme, what we've done, how we've designed it, what's included, but also really to give you as those audience members to give us a chance to ask questions of our panel members around our programme. So without further ado, we've got our agenda here just explaining that we're going to be taking a chance to look at, what Babington do, the partners that are involved in this programme and how we deliver that first-class learning experience. We'll have a panel discussion with Babington, CIPD and Franklin Covey a little bit later on in about 15-20 minutes, and then we'll have a session around question and answers over to anyone in the audience that's joining. You can ask those questions either through the session in the chat. By all means do use that, or you can wait till a little bit later on in that session and put your hands up, and we'll field questions from you at that point. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Rachel Kay, our Chief Learning Officer, and yeah, welcome to Babington and this morning's webinar.
Great, that's lovely. Thank you very much, Phil. And yeah, good morning to everybody. I hope everybody's well this morning. And thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us really and have a chance to learn a little bit about this programme. And what I'm going to be doing this morning is taking you through why we chose to develop this programme from the standard. And there's very few organisations that have actually managed to bring this particular level 7 programme to market. So we're really proud that we've been able to do so over the last sort of 6 to 9 months. Tell you a little bit about the approach that we took when we began our design process, so you can really understand the context, and then our approach to learning and how that manifests itself through the programme. So I'm going to be sort of 15 minutes or so just walking you through those sort of 3 core items, and then, as Phil said, we'll go on and move on to our panel discussion, which I'm really excited to be joined by our strategic partners, as Phil introduced earlier. So in Chris Whitty's style, next slide, please. Great. Okay. So in every great learning design, and I know we've got lots of learning professionals on the call this morning, you start with your problem statements. So our problem statement was around what's the imperative for change in the HR function at the moment? And where we sat was, is your organisation ready for what you might ask? Well, there were 3 things on our mind. Are you building talent pipelines in your HR function? Are you able to promote within because you've got the right skills and competencies sat on the bench that you are continually developing over, people's career lifetimes, and they're ready to take on those more senior roles? And also, have you got the skills and competencies which are required for growth? Never mind the fact that we've just been through a global pandemic. We've now got significant challenges around the economy, and more and more pressure we can see is put on that HR function to lead key members from right at board level through to operational level, through the challenges that I guess we're facing, but also the opportunities that we've got in industry at the moment. So we felt that our clients were beginning to ask themselves those three questions, which is why we began to look at the standard for the senior people professional and develop the programme. On the right hand side are a couple of stats that we looked at as well. So I'm just going to sort of walk through a couple of elements from there. So 53% of CRHOs really felt that the HR function was changing. The economy will grow, we do know that, but there's definitely a constrained labour force, so that's going to provide some challenge. Hybrid working, some would argue it's embedded, but it's probably about to go on another change curve as we look at, are people coming back into the office? Are we happy with the balance that we've got? Are people being able to thrive in this new way of working? There's big challenge around putting together everything from learning pathways to skills pathways to career pathways. And these are all seen as business critical elements in order to make sure that people have got the right path to follow in terms of professional career development and performance. Coaching and power skills, as we refer to them in Babington, are critical, and coaching quite clearly has been on the agenda for the last 10 to 15 years, but still remains a priority, and even more so sometimes in the HR function. Skills taxonomies and talent intelligence are two other items, and all of those items that I've just listed, if you look at Josh Bursin's report for challenges for HR for 2022, he calls out all of those challenges. If that wasn't enough, 50% of HR leaders have also said that they've had to upskill and deepen the understanding around key existing skills of the HR function. So things like employee experience, learning technologies, data analytics in HR, diversity and inclusion, and pay and reward and innovation in that area are items that have been on the agenda for the HR function for the last 10 years, 5 years, however long in your organisation. But what we're now sensing is that the challenge is deepening, and we've got to go to the next level on those subjects. And how are the HR function getting inspiration to continue to develop? And then finally, 76% of HR leaders said that workforce planning was the #1 item on their list. And that was all about talent, agility, and culture. So in other words, it's getting the right people, the right skills at the right time. So our problem statements when we designed the programme were really focused on these sort of challenges that I've just articulated. And in summary, we feel that it's about a growing remit, and it's getting the balance right of how the HR function can support the business. It is about solving problems today in HR, but it's more importantly about finding solutions for tomorrow. HR needs to support both organisational performance and growth, and it's about managing that talent mobility, leadership capability, workforce culture and well-being. So that is a really strong ask, we believe, from the HR function, and we need to make sure that we've got high-performing teams which are really skilled to take on the challenge. So next slide, please, and let's have a look at how we believe that the programme that we've designed can help address some of those challenges. So you can see on this slide, it talks a little bit about the solutions. So it's a senior people professional programme. It's a level 7 programme, and we're really proud to be working in collaboration with both CIPD, where you'll get a chartered status at the end of the programme, and they've joined us on the call today, and Franklin Covey as our delivery partners. And we'll talk a little bit more about the role that each of them play as we go through the session. So why choose these partners? If you look to the right hand side of the slide, here's some examples. So here's a little bit of creds that those of you that don't know anything about Babington, we support over 7,000 UK learners each year. We've got more than 1,000 HR apprentices. So we obviously do levels 3 and 5, and obviously added level 7, and we do all the L&D standards, and also level 5 in coaching, and Ofsted grade 2. Where we've got also outstanding features in our HR provision. CIPD clearly sets out those global standards in HR with over 160,000 active members globally. And Franklin Covey is trusted by 90% of the Fortune 100 companies and clearly is an expert on organisational performance and improvement. So, I mean, I've worked with Franklin Covey in my career previous to joining Babington. I've worked for a number of large corporates. And we believe that the Franklin Covey materials and philosophy sit really nicely with how we wanted to develop this program. And one of the things that we think makes it quite unique is that we talk about developing the rounded individual. So not just a good technically HR professional, but actually somebody that's got great leadership, communication, problem solving skills, and also is really looking at their own professional development. So our two partners are really helping us on that journey. It's an apprenticeship program at the highest level, so you can see the level 7, and it's really looking at equipping those HR leaders to deal with both today's challenge and also tomorrow in terms of having those skills to thrive and move forward. We believe that the program is developing HR excellence in that community, and we're using the apprenticeship levy to fund that journey for many organisations. In fact, yesterday I was talking to a potential new client for us where they made a comment that actually, you know, the HR function spends all of its time developing other functions in the business, and actually what they were looking at doing is how we can really develop our own internal HR members, and they were looking at using the apprenticeship levy to do that. So let's move on and we'll look in a little bit more detail about how we actually have built the programme and a little bit more about the content. So we believe our programme is different, and oh, sorry, I don't know if we just want to go on mute. And that we've developed a program which goes beyond that traditional apprenticeship program, and there's many more sort of deep-rooted activities which we believe add value. So as I said a minute ago, we talk about the rounded individual, and what we mean by that is that they are skills beyond the technical competencies that you'd expect to see at HR level 7. We use something called Contribution Compass, which is Babington's bespoke personality profiling tool, which gives self-awareness and a diagnostic at the start of the programme. It really starts the learners looking at themselves before they begin to look outward. And we believe also that it gives stretch in terms of people thinking about their personal performance, but also in the programme they might get a chance to perhaps challenge each other and think about, you know, in different scenarios, how are each of those HR professionals tackling scenarios. And we look at real practical scenarios and work together as a team. So that sort of self-awareness is really part of the programme. The CIPD, obviously, Professions Map is the sort of foundation of the programme, and that builds a vision of what the senior HR individual looks like. And we certainly believe that's a sort of international benchmark for the profession, and that's the core part of the programme. The other thing that we add is a number of industry events throughout the programme. So obviously access to CIPD events as they go on, access to the Franklin Covey content and the platform, more about that later. We will run a number of different webinars and guest speakers through the 3-year duration of the programme. So already in the next 2 months, Babington will run one session which is around the use of data and analytics for non-technical people. And actually, I'm sure those of you that are HR professionals on the call, you know, you're required more and more now to look at data and analytics and present back your analysis and your comments. So how do you do that when you don't have that sort of technical data BA background? So we'll be running a webinar on the skills required, and that's just something that our learners will get a chance to join, obviously all sort of free of charge, part of the programme. And then we're going to do another one around psychological safety and what that means from a leadership point of view. So by joining Babington's programme, you get access to all these additional industry events. We'll do some round tables throughout the programme, so things like neurodiversity and building strong, high-performing cultures. And our programme also includes action learning sets. I'm a real fan of action learning where people come together learning from each other, and obviously we'll facilitate those sessions as part of the programme. And our content is built on real life scenarios. So, you know, we've worked with high performing HR professionals to design the programme. Obviously with CIPD, we've got Franklin Covey as well. So certainly the learners are going to get a chance to look at some real life scenarios, but also bring their own challenges to the programme. I just want to move on to the next slide. The programme from a learning point of view is built on, if you just look at the left-hand side of the slide, is built on 3 stages. So you'll look at building a foundation, growing and understanding, deeper understanding, and excel and exceed. So we've focused our design on the foundational learning elements, so all those professional skills, those sort of personal skills that you need in order to flourish in a senior HR role. Then as the next stage develops in the programme, we really look at understanding the context and how the theory plays out in business, and really giving a deeper understanding of the why. Why are we doing these things? Why is it key? And then how effectively can we execute? And then as we go through the programme, level 3 of our learning is about, well, how do you excel and exceed? And this is beyond technical expertise. This is about the learners really developing, you know, great leadership as senior HR professionals, and also how they can support the change agenda. So the programme builds over 34 months with those sort of 3 levels as our sort of learning foundation. And those of you that know a little bit about the standard, you'll know that there are 3 different routes that you can take in the final stage of the programmes that the learners can follow. And unlike some of our sort of competitors in the market, we've actually chosen to develop the pathways for all 3 of those areas. So you can do the OD route, the learning route, or the HR route. And Babington, for all of our learners, will allow them to choose any one of those particular pathways. The selection process we've really thought about. So as part of the programme, before anybody sort of, you know, gets that final tick of joining the next programme, we do a full assessment process. So there's some interviews that we do with each of the candidates, just to make sure that level 7 is the right level for them, that they've got some of the experience needed for the programme. And if we do that assessment and they don't quite make the grade, it could be that the level 5 programme could be more appropriate, or it could be perhaps they need a little bit more experience in the business before they come back and reapply. So that's all handled really sensitively and in a really supportive manner by the Babington team. So this programme really is suitable for that sort of more senior HR person. If you wanted to define what that senior HR person looked like, it would be somebody that was probably managing a team. They were involved in the strategic element of HR, and certainly would be accountable for making some decisions. And then at the end, the prize is obviously you get sort of membership from the CIPD upon completion of the programme. So it is a considerable challenge to undertake. However, a great reward at the end, and it's a real programme that does go on a journey, to use the cliche. It's not just about a quick technical professional qualification tick exercise. It really is about learning with the mix of the off-the-job training as well. We believe that we've developed, you know, a programme that will develop that rounded individual, as I spoke about at the beginning. So next slide. Thank you. A little bit about the programme. I mean, you probably can't read on the left-hand side, but we'll be sending out information on the programme after we finish the call. But you can probably just see some of the headlines there of, you know, the different themes that the programme goes through, from leading the way, which is all about that sort of psychometric testing at the start of using Contribution Compass to look at ourselves, how we empower people in the role, shaping the future from a HR point of view, ahead of time from a strategy point of view, on the right path, pathway to success, and then obviously you end up with the EPA at the end. So 34 months, CIPD chartered status at the end. This programme is fully levy funded at a capped value of 19,000. You get your Franklin Covey all access pass to their content. And what we've done is we've mapped a lot of the Franklin Covey content to the knowledge, skills and behaviours from the standard, and really added that extra dimension of content that the learners can go to build their knowledge as they work their way through the standard. Masterclasses and guest speakers, as I spoke about earlier on, and access to all those events. So hopefully this is a sort of summary of programme highlights. We use a really blended approach in our learning, so you'll find that there's some mix of face-to-face learning where possible with webinars, obviously COVID permitting, also face-to-face digital, so when we're doing some online workshops, you've got your one-to-one coaching, we've got self-directed learning, we've got access to content. So when you look at the full blend of design, our programme sort of ticks all of those boxes, and we believe that offers a really engaging learner experience. So final slide from me, I think if we just move on, is really now, I guess, just to sort of pass over to the panel really, and I'm going to hand back to Phil, but hopefully I've given you a bit of an update of some of the features of the programme, what it contains, a little bit about why Babington, and also, you know, some of those sort of big problem statements that we feel that the programme goes a long way to addressing. And you're always supported by the amazing Babington team who will help you make the decision about, is it the right programme for you, or is it the right programme for your organisation, and whether you want a closed cohort just for your organisation or whether you join our open cohorts. We can talk more about that with our team shortly. But Phil, shall I pass back to you and give a chance for our audience to listen to some of our experts talk today?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Appreciate that, and really great presentation run through of the programme, really nicely leading into our panel discussion now. So yeah, I'm really pleased to introduce everyone that's joined us today to our panel. So I'll just start off with introducing everyone. So we've got Feroz Bilamoria, who is a learning and development leader, consultant, facilitator and coach, whose focus is supporting the development of people and organisations to be the best they can be. And Feroz has over 10 years experience as a senior director at OC Tanner before joining Franklin Covey, and has a wealth of experience across all aspects of strategy, leadership and performance, and has a deep interest in how success is rooted in human behaviour and ultimately trust. And Feroz and I have had many conversations over the last few months around the partnership that we've set up here with Franklin Covey, and it's a real privilege to have you on the call today with us, Feroz, as part of our panel. Joining us as well is Karen Waite. So Karen is a Chartered Fellow of the CIPD, as well as being a founder and CEO of Leap Like a Salmon, a people development organisation that specialises in online CPD. Karen leads CPD at the higher master's level for the University of Bradford, Faculty of Management and Law, as well as being the lead external quality advisor for CIPD. And she's also on the board as a trustee for the Institute of Leadership and Management. And it's a real pleasure to welcome you back, Karen, to our webinar today. So lovely to see you again this morning. And Yvonne from the team here at Babington is a senior HR specialist trainer and coaching professional within Babington, and has extensive experience and expertise in all aspects of L&D and organisational design, and has held senior positions leading people development for a variety of enterprise, private and public sector organisations. She has held CIPD recognised status for over 20 years and currently supports learners at the very highest levels of HR programme that we offer, including our Senior People Professional Apprenticeship and our first cohort of learners that started earlier on in March. So a warm welcome to yourself again, Yvonne, to the session, and really looking forward to you being part of the panel. And we've also got Jonathan Galley, who is our People and Talent Director here at Babington, where he's responsible for all aspects of people, skills and capability development. And throughout his career, Jonathan has held a variety of positions across multinational, PLC and private equity organisations, and is experienced in the on-the-ground challenges of balancing the people requirements of businesses today with the right talent approach for future needs. We've also got a few of the members that will probably dipping into this conversation from the panel. So obviously Rachel Kay, our CLO, Chief Learning Officer, who has over 25 years in learning and development, has held executive level roles in Thales and Capita, and worked along both public and private sector clients. And as the Chief Learning Officer for Babington, her remit is to meet the challenges faced by industry on developing new business operating models as a result of COVID, and identifying the skills and capability agendas required to support business growth and build the workforce of the future. So yeah, great to have everyone joining us this morning, and really appreciate everyone being part of our panel discussion this morning, because and I really am going to start off with a question to yourself, Feroz, that really sort of taps into the conversation that we've been starting, and we mentioned earlier on in the presentation about, we talked quite a bit around the rounded individual. And I guess the one thing that we tapped into with Franklin Covey as a partnership, and probably a really great question for you to answer, is how does the Franklin Covey All Access Pass and the resources that we've partnered up with you support the rounded individual, and why?
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Phil, and thanks for inviting me along. So I guess, at Franklin Covey, we look at individuals through this idea of the whole person paradigm. And what we mean by that is this idea of the body, the heart, the mind, the spirit. And when we talk about the body, we talk about this idea that, we are the only one resource we have. So we have to consider, we have to look after ourselves. And particularly, through the last 2 years has taught us that, if nothing else, that we have to consider that sense of renewal. When we talk about the heart, we talk about the relationships that we have and that we build with others around us. When we talk about, as you said earlier, Rachel, it's beyond just the technical. Ultimately, an organization isn't a failure or a success per se. It's what people do every day and how they interact with each other. So it looks at how do you build those high trusted relationships. When we talk about the mind, we talk about the mental well-being. Again, like I said, the last 2 years has taught us the importance of that. We talk about our sense of learning, knowledge, growth, beyond just the technical, but how can we be better than we were yesterday? So it's that mindset approach. And then the last part of that is around the spirit element, the connections we have with people, emotional intelligence, our self-awareness. So we take that whole holistic approach to it, and then we focus on this idea of mindsets, skill sets, and tool sets. So mindset is ultimately the foundation of any kind of behavior change, because how we see things in life fundamentally determines what we do, how we behave, the actions, our decisions, and that in turn gives us an outcome. So if we want to shift that outcome, we have to focus on the mindset. Only then can we then develop those skills to outwardly demonstrate those mindsets to get you the outcomes that you want. And then we help provide individuals with all the tools to become the expert with those mindsets. We also look to help people find their voice, as we talk about. So within an organization, and Rachel, you touched on something really poignant earlier, where you said that actually within the HR community, we're often always focusing on the rest of the organization. And actually quite often in organizations, in my experience, they forget to focus on themselves. I mean, there's the old adage, plumbers have the worst bathrooms, right? Because they're always out fixing everyone else's. So it's that whole concept that actually taking time to focus on yourself. So it's not just about helping you find your own voice, but it's then therefore helping others find their voice. And then the last bit is around this idea of energy. How do we help really fuel the fire that sits within everyone internally? Because let's be honest, you're in this role within HR because you care about people, and you want to look at how you develop those people in an organization. So you have to manage your energy and resources. Rachel said it right at the start, we're constantly being asked to do more with less right now. And so we have to be very, very careful that we don't reach burnout. So it provides the ability to think about ourselves internally and then externally. So, sorry, very long-winded answer to that very short question, Phil, but hopefully that kind of gives you a perspective.
Yeah, absolutely, for us. And I think for anyone listening in, I think, understanding the apprenticeship standards and understanding the knowledge, skills and behaviours is really a clear element there that you've talked about around those behaviours and those skills that are really going to make a difference to people. And I guess sort of taking that in terms of the outcomes of the apprenticeship, what's your view of the relevance of this program in relation to driving organisational performance? And you know, there were a few things you said in your answer there around obviously that individuals needing to look after themselves, obviously got this post-pandemic, you know, move back into potential workplaces, the real shift that's taken place, hasn't there? So I guess organisations are now probably looking forward to understanding how can they really start to differentiate themselves and drive the organisational performance. So yeah, what do you think that your view and the relevance of this programme is in relation to that?
I think that there's a real high degree of relevancy because, again, as I said, you know, I think the HR function is almost, you're the custodian of people's careers and whilst they're in your care in your organisation, and actually being able to deliver the best that you can deliver and the best that you can be. You know, as Rachel said right at the start, you know, there's so many facets that are now required for an HR professional to be able to be an expert in, and actually having that ability to be more strategic. There was a really interesting article on LinkedIn recently that said, you know, why is it always that you know, organizational leaders always come from a commercial or a financial background? Why is it never that the career path is from HR or from people leadership? And I think HR leaders are now being required to really look at it from a far more strategic perspective. So having that strategic lens is really important. So I do think there's a lot of relevancy with this particular standard and having that ability to look on the business as well as in the business, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely, Fraz. I think it's a really great point, because thinking about, you know, where people leaders usually come from, you're right, it's a really interesting point to sort of highlight there, that actually where do they typically their backgrounds come from. So, you know, having a program like this and you know, really thinking about the need for upskilling and, you know, what drives the need for us to upskill. So I guess I think what I'd like to do is come on to Karen next, really, to really focus in on, you know, linking the two elements there of that really, what's the significance of high level apprenticeships in this space then, considering what we've just talked about here around the need for upskilling, where people leaders play a part in organizations, and yeah, that great perspective that Feroz just shared around the challenge of where typical people leaders in organizations typically stem from in organizations and their backgrounds.
Yeah, thank you. Morning, Philip. So there's a significant shift in the mindset of how apprenticeships are viewed now, and particularly, you know, establishing it as an alternative route into qualifications, and it's not seen as a poor relations anymore, because, you know, it has come a long way. And one of the key things is it's equally valuable, but more importantly, it's valuable to the employers, and they're recognising the skills, the knowledge and behaviours that are required, that they're developing, that they need now in their workplaces. So people that are going through an apprenticeship can be, you know, rounded in the development that they receive, as well as feeling confident about the opportunity for the future roles that they're developing themselves for. And obviously within HR, you know, that's given them that, you know, that strategic approach, as well as, you know, the skills, knowledge and behaviour that, you know, a solid HR person would be, as well as the membership into CIPD. So it's that increased recognition and credibility that really establishes an apprenticeship, particularly at a higher level, and a good route into the qualification and into membership.
Brilliant. And I think it's really important as well to differentiate, isn't that, with an apprenticeship like this, you know, the development and the demonstration of capability is through actually doing the role. You know, we talk about apprenticeships being, you know, 20% off the job is the formal learning time, but actually 80% of that study and that development is individuals in roles actually demonstrating and having an impact on their organizations and really developing themselves through that process. I think we've talked a lot about the core program. I guess one of the things that I wanted to tap into, certainly from your experience, was how does the endpoint assessment work with a program like this, with an apprenticeship at this level, and what's the role of CIPD in this?
Yeah, thank you. So a good point there, Philip, in terms of the real work experience, because they're earning while they're learning, and particularly that experience is, that lived experience where they can, demonstrate their competence through having that role, as well as obviously doing the development as well. So throughout all that development and throughout all that experience, they get to the point of the endpoint assessment, which is they go through a metaphorical gateway when they're ready. And I see it as their opportunity, an apprentice's opportunity, to demonstrate their competence and what they have learned. The CIPD have set up resources and support and webinars and everything that an apprentice and a training provider requires to support them to do their best. We're setting them up for success, and that's what we aim to do. It's still in the process of development, because the gateway isn't for a year or so yet, for CIPD anyway. So the key thing is that we take you through all the steps that you need, so that you've got all the information, that there's no surprises in terms of what the process is. And the process is that you would need to do a project. So you've got to think about a project plan, but it's a real work project. So it needs to be something that has an impact and something that covers all the requirements. And one of the challenges is that you've got to pass 100%, and that's why the apprenticeship is recognised as such a valuable thing, because they have got to achieve at such a high level of all the elements and components within the apprenticeship. So the project is something that they have to really live and demonstrate that they've achieve that, and there's a number of things that they need to do, but they won't be on their own. We give that support as they go through. And then the professional discussion with questions is as it sounds. They've got to answer questions that are relevant to the areas of the skill and the knowledge that they've got to demonstrate. And it really is about setting them up for success. But one of the things I would advise that apprentice to do is to really think about their own skills and knowledge and the level that they're at, because it's the self-assessment to check that they are on the right level, to check that this is the route that they need to go through, to understand what those requirements are. And CIPD have got all that information in terms of the standards on the website, so you can easily review and understand what that is. Speak to Babington about how they support, as well as any particular additional needs that they may require, because we want to set up for success, and we don't want people to be put on something because they think it's a good idea when actually they haven't got the opportunity within the workplace to meet the requirements. And that's a real key thing, because it is quite a rigorous process, and so it should be, because it's a level 7, but the apprenticeship standards are rigorous in themselves, and so if you are put on as a result of somebody recommending and not really understanding what the requirements are, then it will be more of a stretch, shall we say. So you need to be in a position where you can demonstrate it within the employment situation, as well as at a level to be able to cover that breadth throughout.
Yeah.
Phil, if I can just add something, and just to support Karen's point, from Babington's point of view, I mean, clearly the HR senior people professionals is a new standard and coming to market. And as Karen said, we haven't gone through the first gateway yet, but Babington runs level 7, for example, in accounting qualifications. And I think probably for our sort of guests on the call today to be rest assured that we're really confident and comfortable with taking those senior level people through this type of program. And I think the finance function has got some of the same challenges that the HR function's got in industry around talent pipelines, making sure that we continually develop. Yes, they've got professional qualifications as well, but I just think, whoever you choose to put your people on, it's really important that you have a partner that can navigate through a level 7 program, as Karen says, because it has complexity. And I think, we're sort of a little bit further ahead than on that, because, we're sort of taking a number of level 7 accounting professionals through that program as well. So just to sort of rest assured, really, that we're doing this with other functions in industry as well. Sorry, Phil, just thought that might put people's minds at rest.
Yeah, a great additional point there, Rachel. And I think, linking back to what you were saying, Karen, we've clearly organised the programme in a way that, I like to think of it augmenting what people are doing in the workplace. So actually, it should feel like it's really supporting. If we think about the development needs, think about our own personal development in the workplace, and actually giving us the opportunity with set elements and focus area projects, really driving that competence improvement and development throughout the program. And as it is a 30-month program, we'll find, make sure that the right people are going onto it. I know Rachel Sheridan will bring you into this in a moment around, identifying the right people and that process to bring on. But that's 30 months of really focusing on all the different elements, as you say, Karen, and setting people up for success towards the end, because it's a long program, but it's also really rewarding and rich. And, in terms of the impact you could have on an organisation by doing this apprenticeship is quite profound, I think, certainly at this level, and certainly in the type of roles that would be suitable for this. So,
absolutely. I was just going to add that, it's a partnership approach in terms of, relationship with CIPD and yourselves as Babington. So it's, and the programme is, set up in that way for success as we are. So thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Karen. So what I was going to do is just bring in Jonathan now, our Senior People Talent Director here at Babington, and just really taking that lens that you have. So we've looked at it from Franklin Covey's lens in terms of the rounded individual, the mindsets, the behaviours, and the real richness that we can develop people. We've just talked with Karen around, how does the process work? What does the endpoint assessment look like? What's the credibility of a programme at this level, and certainly an apprenticeship at this level. So I really just want to tap into your thoughts, Jonathan, as our Senior People Talent Director, in terms of, what are the benefits that you see of this programme to your people and the business? So as that, taking that lens really on this.
Okay, thanks, Phil. I think the big one is that the programme was built over the last 24 months, and I don't think we've seen as significant tech shift or people shift as we have in the last 2 years. So it's a bang up to date programme. I'd reiterate some of the points that have already been made in terms of the shift and the demand in the HR sphere. So, the workforce need, the capability challenges that we all have in respective businesses, and the need for talent planning has never been tougher. So, since 2019, unemployment has been around 4%. So that makes the talent acquisition challenges that we all face really tight, really challenging. And then coupled with that, we're now all working flexibly. So, the workforce that we now face is really transient, very easy to move roles. You're no longer having to think about travel and logistics. So the UK market for talent is now incredibly broad. And we've talked a lot about the Great Resignation. So that's in most HR publications at the moment, this transient workforce and the movements that are being made in the marketplaces. So I think that the programme is really important from the perspective of practical tools to solve those problems now, but also think about, what does the workforce in your respective organisation need to look like in 3, 4, 5 years time? Because, technology that we're using will only become greater and more usable. I think that the programme also reiterates some of the fundamental skill sets that I think HR has been grappling with for the last 5-10 years. So the use of management information, people analytics, the ability to business case and act as a strategic partner has been key for HR, and it remains so. And certainly, from my perspective, I think HR should have a broad strategic role. So the capability to talk and work with other functions, I think, is really key. And this programme builds on that. And then finally, the coaches and the masterclasses. So, certainly in my career to date, there's nothing more helpful than sitting with somebody who operates at your level in a different organisation and you can have honest conversations with, that idea sharing is really invaluable. And hopefully from the programme, those who go through it will make contacts for life. And certainly there's some HR directors I still sit down with. My boss of 10 years ago, I still sit down with regularly. And getting that exposure is a really unique opportunity to understand what they're doing in their respective industry or business, what's transferable, what isn't, and how can that knowledge be used in your role in your respective organisation. So hopefully some really strong networks will, will be developed over the course of the programme.
Yeah, I think it's a brilliant point to make there, Jonathan. That's really great to hear that you're still in touch with someone who had an influence on you like that. And I think we all probably can know individuals that we probably have real good fond memories of, people who are mentors still to us. And I think having that network and building it is a real aspect of the core of the programme, as you say, along with all the other elements that we've talked about today. And I just want to bring in a couple of other people now just in towards the end of this sort of panel, because obviously Rachel Sheridan and Yvonne, you're part of the programme as well in terms of delivery. And we've also got Rachel and Sam on from a perspective of our development of the programme and etc. So I was going to come to Rachel and Sam first, but when considering options around upskilling for the HR and talent function, why is this particular programme one that you'd recommend over other routes? And then I'm going to come to Rachel and Yvonne just to finally wrap up around just their sort of touching on the experience that they've delivered around the programme so far and just what that means in terms of being able to deliver the specialisms that we've got in the programme. So yeah, just to Rachel or Sam, when considering options around upskilling for the HR talent function, why would you recommend this particular programme over other routes?
Sam, do you want to take that one? I don't know if he's off mute. It's always one of those things, isn't it? I can pick it up.
Okay.
I mean, my background, as you said, actually, I think now I've tipped over a few more years, that are probably about 30 years in learning. And my main background in learning has been in commercial learning. So even though I've always had sort of apprenticeships in my field as I've progressed through my career from an accountability point of view, really commercial training has been my focus. And I think as that commercial training budget is stretched and reduced, you've got this amazing opportunity with your probably sort of unspent levy sat there. And this is a programme, since we went from frameworks to standards, that is, exactly as I would have purchased, sort of 10 years ago from a commercial point of view. So I think it's a great way to deliver a quality programme. I love the idea of open cohorts. I would, when I was in a corporate environment, be, recommending to my senior leaders that, we took that approach if it felt right, because there's, I think Jonathan was saying there, a great chance to network and share ideas. And quite often deep-rooted learning happens when you have those conversations. So I think in summary, in answer to your question, this is, I think with the change now to the standards, this is a programme which is about upskilling. It is about reskilling people. It's making the workforce fit for the future. It's creating that talent pipeline. It's creating engagement because they're staying with you through the journey and they get to do some of the learning on the job. And it's not just about getting a professional qualification, which, let's face it, sometimes that can happen. It's just, I want the tick in the box. But actually, is that then the right solution at organisational level, where you really want people to be demonstrating new behaviours as they go through the sort of 3 years of the programme? So yeah, why would you go out and buy commercial learning for this community when you've got, whether it's levels 3, 5 or 7, you've got these great sort of pathway for professional developments of the HR function sat in your levy pot? So yeah, go spend it.
Exactly. Brilliant. Thanks, Rachel. Good stuff. So just before we open up to questions, and if you have got a question, by the way, audience, do post them in the chat, or you can use your hand and raise your hand, and we'll just keep an eye on who's raised hands. But before we do come to any questions that might be coming from the audience, I just wanted to sort of finally ask the question either of Rachel or Yvonne, either, who's best placed. But we talked around the programme wanting, we offer the programme to our HR route way, our learning development route way, or the organisational development route way. So I guess it'd be just good to sort of explain a little bit. Can you sort of tell us a little bit more about how that works, Rachel or Yvonne?
Yeah, absolutely, and I'll take a little bit, and I'm sure Yvonne will absolutely jump in there. So we've been really privileged in actually starting this and obviously working through the first cohort, and we spoke a little bit, and I've heard so much that I just wanted to echo on. It would take me far too long to run through it, but one of the things that we found here is that we have done a pre-panel discussion with people beforehand. We spoke about the importance of making sure that it's right fit, but what that's allowed Yvonne, I and some of the team at Babington to do is really explore the background of people that are coming on this programme and actually really influence that stretch and challenge. And we spoke about the networking, the collaboration. So it's brilliant that people are bringing, if you will, different hats and different specialisms into these cohorts. And I know, and Yvonne will, I'm sure, touch on this, but the people who have already started with us have already developed some really strong sort of bonds, connections, and real stretch and challenge within completely different areas in which they work. So with anything, actually being on those open cohorts and liaising and working and thinking differently, just taking your mindset out of where potentially sometimes we're quite siloed in one business, taking your mind out of, and even your sector, has been just really eye-opening and fantastic to watch and see. But it does also bring in, again, we've spoke about those specialisms, and we're really pleased that we're able to offer the three. It's something that, you know, we're really proud to be able to do that, because obviously within you know, HR in itself, there are these areas, all of which are connected to people, but the HR function is more the strategic focus on your policies, compensation, regulation, your management and your performance, whereas the OD function, and it's probably coming quite prevalent, is more strategic focus on your systems, your practices, talent management, structure, and certainly change and culture, and I think that that's an absolute foremost. The L&D function, again, it's all strategic, but it's focusing on those employee skills, those key skills, and the knowledge and the competence. And I think, you know, obviously the apprenticeship is something that really develops and shows that and utilises that as well in any of the areas in which you would choose to do. But allow me to hand over Yvonne and see if she can just bring any more to light as well.
Everything is, I would echo everything that's been commented by yourself, Rach, and Jonathan and Rachel regarding the programme. What I would like to share is feedback from the first session in terms of collaboration and networking, which has been discussed. That actually started from induction, offered out more support. We've got all the masterclasses coming up. We've got the virtual classrooms and working with key expert people. So I've offered out drop-in sessions, which was taken up by the group, and networking started straight away. And one of the comments that I did pick up in the open cohort, very much what Rachel said, is what they look for. There's quite a few from the one organisation, and they embraced the open cohort, you know, in terms of how they practice. And the first theme is all around strategy and structure, and that's where the bonding, if you like, started from the group. No issues so far, I'm pleased to say. Second month, working away, still doing their drop-in sessions, ready to attend their second virtual classroom. And yeah, they're working the learning management system, which we use as BUD, and it's going extremely well. I'm pleased to say at the moment, everything's good.
Excellent, as it will be. Thanks, Phil.
Yeah, thanks, Yvonne, and thanks, Rachel. Okay, so we've got a few minutes just left of the session today before we wrap up, and I just want to just make sure that if anyone who has joined us today has got any key questions, that now's really the opportunity to ask them with the panel and the audience that we've got here. So do post in the chat if you have anything that you'd like to share or put your hands up. But before we sort of take anything from the group, and I'll sort of keep an eye on the chat while it's happening, I guess just to share that following the session today. Oh, brilliant. So first questions come in. Awesome. Helen. So if I come to you, Rachel Sheridan, on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. The next programme is starting on the 6th of June. So we have currently got a wait list. So we've got plenty of people that are on there ready to go. We are, so effectively, if you register your interest, then we will start with the panel discussions as soon as possible, just to get to know you a little bit, get to understand. But the actual next session will be starting 6th of June. We're delighted to say.
Rachel. Thanks, Helen, for your question. Just while we're waiting for any others that might pop into the chat or with people putting their hands up, just as I was about to say, we will, after the session, be sending out a link to the recording for this, as well as the brochure details that support the pack as well. So and there'll be details on how you can contact us on registering interest. Luke's asked, Luke Ford, thank you. When is the next one after that? Just thinking ahead. Yes, a really good question, because obviously planning this, getting conversations started in your organisation, starting to line up the date. So Rachel, again, back to you. Do you know when the next cohort's planned to start after the 6th of June?
We haven't got any dates in as yet. We were originally looking to run this quarterly, but based on the demand that we've had today, we're probably looking towards every couple of months. So we would base it very much on demand. So I would imagine, obviously bearing in mind, we would consider holidays and when people would want to start, because obviously, you know, within a role that you guys are going to be in, you're probably quite challenged around timings. So I'd probably say that we would be looking to September to take out of the August holidays for the one after the June.
Brilliant, thanks Rachel. Good stuff.
Phil, there's just another question around the outline and the regularity of modules, meetings, exams. So
Right, okay.
I think Marianne had asked that. So the information that we're going to send out, Marianne, has got some sort of data around the programme in a little bit more detail. So you'll be able to have a look at that.
Yeah. Thank you, Rachel, for spotting that one. I just missed that.
That's
yeah.
all right. All right. You're very welcome, Marianne. Thank you too. I think we must have given so much information that everybody's just got lots of thinking to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a great, as I say, great to have everyone join us this morning over breakfast and the start of the day. So I hope everyone's had a good start to their Wednesday joining us in this webinar. I just wonder if we could put up the last slide, I think, just to share with everyone just the follow-up details and contact details. We will, if there are any other questions that come in, obviously ask that. Yeah, absolutely. So there is I'll come back in a second to the slide, but as with normal apprenticeships, our learners are supposed to have 20% of working time to study. Yes, absolutely, Marianne. So the way that that works is that's still the case. So we would take a learner's typical their working hours, and the programme works flexibly to those working hours. So if you've got a 37-hour working week, then the 20% of that working time will be taken for study. So absolutely. And we'd calculate that up front with the learner and the individual to make sure that was all mapped out accordingly for their individual learning plan. Nicola Anderson has asked then, we would be interested in a UK delivery for our colleagues based outside of England. Would we be able to pay for this outside the lever, i.e. commercial fee? So I think I'm just wondering who's best to answer that one. Would that be yourself, Sarah Stilliard? I think you're on. But yes, you can pay it as a commercial fee, Nicola. That's absolutely an opportunity for us to do that. We can look into that. Sarah, I've seen you come on camera, so I just wondered if you know any more about that from experience.
Yes, that's probably something we can explore. So the apprenticeship delivery would be exactly the same. It's just rather than it being funded by the apprenticeship levy and an ESFA route, you could commercially fund the apprenticeship. Equally, we might in the future be able to explore a slightly shorter commercial route outside of the apprenticeship delivery. So it's probably worth us catching up separately on that just to explore what that might look like. My team do a lot in terms of devolved funding, so definitely something we can explore. Keen to make it as inclusive as possible, but equally make sure that it's going to be achievable in terms of those training budgets as well. So brilliant.
Thanks, Sarah. Brilliant. Good stuff. So yeah, just to finish off then, and I will keep an eye out for any last questions that might pop in, because I do appreciate people might be squirreling away and just coming up with things. We have enrolment is open now, so if you are ready to develop your people leaders and would like to put either individuals or nominations forward, then do get in touch with either Adam Kemp, our strategic lead, or Alex Frost, our client relationship manager, or Sarah Stilliard, as just obviously spoken as well on the call. We have options for closed or open cohorts across organisation, and as we've talked about, the benefits of an open cohort are really, you know, profound in terms of really, you know, sharing best practice, really learning from different organisations and bringing, you know, skill sharing into organisations through this route. And there will be further information available for prospective organisations and learners, so you can find out more through our full programme brochure, explore the CIPD and explore Franklin Covey. And as I say, there's our contact details for Adam and Alex at the end if you want to get directly in touch with them, or any of their panel members from Babington today. So Rachel, two Rachels, Yvonne, Jonathan and myself, then do get in touch with us, because we can obviously put you in direction with the right people to discuss your needs further. Really thank you everyone for joining us again this morning, and thank you for our panel members, special guests Feroz, Karen and all the team at Babington for joining us this morning. So have a great day everyone.
Yeah, thanks everybody, have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye everyone.
Bye bye bye.
Bye bye.